Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter. I've been covering the Jaguars every single day since August 2019, and we're here once again to go through another offseason with each other. All right, today I'm going to be talking about whether the Jaguars should make another home run swing, whether they should be aggressive, whether they should, in the words of the Les Snead era Rams in the front office, F them picks. You saw the Jaguars obviously be aggressive last year with Travis Hunter, which kind of set a tone for what I think you've seen them be so far. I mean, they in terms of the moves, the signings of guys they signed, a decently high volume of guys in free agency. They made several trades, both getting guys, Tim Patrick, Greg Newsome, obviously Jacoby Myers, and then trades getting rid of guys, Tank Bigsby, Tyson Campbell, Fred Johnson, etc. Not everyone works out, obviously. You get some Luke Fortners for Collins Saunders, but at the end of the day, the Jaguars have shown that they're going to be an aggressive team. I don't expect that to change this offseason. And, I like to make sure I preface this a lot. This isn't something I'm reporting, not something I'm hearing. It's what the vibes feel like. And that is that I think the Jaguars, will have the kind of offseason where, much like the Rams in the early days of McVay, let a lot of guys walk, used a lot of draft picks, and made trades to get some established names on the roster. I think the Jaguars are absolutely in that position as a franchise right now to try to take that swing. They talked about raising the floor, and they clearly did that. The Jaguars went 13-4, won the AFC South, had a remarkable winning streak at the end of the season, one of the best seasons in franchise history. They unfortunately lost 27-24 to the Buffalo Bills in the wild card round and had their season end much shorter, I think, than anybody had anticipated. The locker room was kind of stunned. I'd say, even going on locker room cleanout day the next day, I posted a story, Devin Lloyd talking about it. I thought he put it best. It was clear that he didn't envision a scenario where they weren't going to continue playing after that game against Buffalo. And I thought Liam Cohen gave that impression speaking after the game. It came from a place of, it just seemed like he was stunned a little bit. That the season ended the way it did. And it was surprising. I picked Jacksonville. I know a lot of people did. Buffalo ended up winning it. Josh Allen had a fantastic game. Is what it is. But after the Jaguars raised the floor and created that kind of season, what the game against Buffalo told me when they were going against, a true one of one in Josh Allen, who, he's not perfect. Every quarterback has, downright awful games. His game against Denver wasn't even top 10 in the worst EPA per drop back of any quarterback since 2007. Stroud's game was, Rodgers against Houston was, etc. Allen clearly did some good things on top of, though. He did have several really, really bad turnovers. But with that in mind, when it came time for the playoffs, the Jaguars, they had been a good team all season. I'd even say a great team. But it felt like watching them against Buffalo. They were just one or two difference makers away from being able to win that kind of football game and keep going. And yeah, Travis Hunter, was supposed to be that difference maker. He gets hurt after 7 games. There's nothing they can do to control that. They clearly made moves. Adding Jacoby Myers made a giant impact, etc. But to me, if you're able to acquire, a blue chip player in some capacity, you've seen the floor get raised. What would that player have done for them against Buffalo? What if their ceiling had been raised? And I'm not saying that the Jaguars obviously messed up. I think it would have been foolish for them to push all their chips in twice in one offseason. After doing the Hunter move, obviously. Like I said, Hunter is supposed to be a difference maker. And I think it would have been if healthy. I really do. Hunter was coming on and really getting good reps on both sides of the ball when he got hurt. I mean, that last game he played, 100 yards receiving, breaks up a pass to Devontae Adams. I mean, how many guys can say they've done that in the NFL? Not many. And I understand the year went how it went. I understand the injury, of course. They're going to have to prove it on the field with him. But if you are aggressive and you add another top tier guy, you're also, in a way, adding Travis Hunter because you only had him for 7 games. If you can get Travis Hunter for a full season or close to it, then it's like, you're obviously adding another level of playmaker to a team that just went 13-4 into the playoffs. So what if you're adding 2 players of that caliber? I think those can be the kind of moves that can just swing the momentum for a franchise. And obviously they don't have a first to trade this year. But, I mean, they have 4 picks in the top 100. Whether that even means dabbling in the future picks in some capacity. What even a move would look like, I'm not sure. I wrote an article saying 3 guys I think makes sense if they're going to go for a big move would be Max Crosby, Daron Payne, and Trent McDuffie. Max Crosby is obviously a blue chip pass rusher. But it kind of feels like a decision point with him and the Raiders. He obviously wasn't happy about being shut down by the Raiders, which, I know they fired Pete Carroll, but that was a franchise decision. That wasn't obviously just a Pete Carroll decision. And I think that their relationship's probably been mended from that. But at the end of the day, I think you can tell. Just watching Max Crosby and videos, etc. Excuse me. In these seasons where the Raiders are just losing game after game, it seems like the Raiders have broken his spirit. He has said so many times he wants to be a Raider for life, etc. But for a guy who's so competitive, for a guy who plays with the fire and motor and energy that he has and the passion that he has, obviously a long history of losing is going to be a pretty big negative. And that's what it's clearly become with him. And then the downside is, his spirit's already broken. His body started to go with it a bit this year. Faced a lot of injuries, specifically knee injuries. He's played a ton of snaps in the NFL. He's getting up there, more so in age. So, you're not trading for a guy who's in his 4th season, 5th season, anything like that. He's played a lot of football. So I think it's, fair to say that this could be even the last offseason that the Raiders can really dangle him out there and get something substantial. I think if they wait a year, you probably see his price come way down. So that's just one option. I think you can make 3 pass rushers work. I really do. I always have. If you even think about it, Jaguars have done it before. I know it was very different than apples and oranges, but Calais Campbell, Ngakoue, Dante Fowler, they added Josh Hines-Allen after they got rid of Fowler. I know one of those guys was a big end, etc., but he's still got pass rush production off the edge. There's a way to play guys, especially with Trayvon Walker being able to rush from the inside. I think there's a way to get those 3 on the field playing together and to utilize those 3. Obviously, I think Daron Payne is one guy to watch. Is he like in the same tier playmaker as Crosby? No. And he has had a down, I'd say, last 2 years. I kind of just attribute that to Dan Quinn and the Commanders aren't very good. It's just that they caught fire in 2024. A lot of variant stuff that kind of went in their way. It caught back up to them this season, and a lot of guys in the defense just haven't played well over the years. Daron Payne obviously was better before they got there, but he's still just 28. I think that, he can be a game wrecker on the inside. Obviously, he's not like an Aaron Donald, Jeffrey Simmons type where he's going to be, a 3 tech who's just getting double-digit sacks, but he can contribute against the run, against the pass, and I think adding him to the defensive line, and making him the focal point of rebuilding the interior defensive line would be big. And then Trent McDuffie. I mean, if you want to make sure a loss like the Bills game never happens again to where Josh Allen can just, get quick game and take advantage of, the secondary. I mean, imagine adding Travis Hunter at corner and then Trent McDuffie to the cornerback spot across from him. So I think there are options out there even beyond those, and I think the Jaguars need to seriously consider them heading into this offseason.